Zuckerberg is going to build a data center the size of Manhattan for Meta. And they're going to spend hundreds of billions of dollars on this giant mega facility. In fact, they're going to build two of them. The first one is going to be called Prometheus, right? He's the one that stole fire from the gods. So they want to name the first one after the Titan Prometheus. And the second one they want to build is what they call superclusters, is going to be called Hyperion. And that's after the Greek god of light. So the mindset here is just unbelievable. And it's going to have so many downstream impacts all across society and civilization. And some of those are going to affect everybody. Some of those are only going to affect a few people.
They're building it the size of Manhattan, but where are they building it?
We'll see where they're going to build it. Typically, they've been building these things and scattering them around the country, probably for security reasons. But they need to be close to water. They need to be close to an electricity source. They need to be in a place that's relatively flat, right? You don't build something like that on top of a mountain. And they want to probably put it around a place where there's a low cost of building and maintaining it. So maybe something like Amarillo, Texas, or Lubbock, or someplace in Colorado. I don't know. They haven't said exactly yet. But the fundamental thing here is that there all of these different AI companies all around the planet. There's about a dozen that are the big ones, right? The big titans, we can call them. And they're doing this. They're building these things all over. So there's this massive gold rush for the chip companies, right? So people like AMD and TMC and Intel and NVIDIA and all these others are building as many chips as they can. The Americans are terrified the Chinese are going to build faster and better products because there's this race to the top. And the Chinese are afraid the Americans will. And there's a number of other people around the world, like in India and Israel and Europe, that are going, hold on a second. Whoa, these guys are really accelerating. So much is happening, and it's transforming business and everyday life faster than you can see behind the scenes. In fact, yesterday I watched a video by Mo Gadot, and he was talking about how he spends 6 hours a day. This guy's a global expert on AI and computers. He spends 6 hours a day just trying to keep up. And that's fantastic. How are we supposed to do that? What are we supposed to take away from this? And how is this going to impact our life? Well, it's going to have a huge impact. The question is how, and what can you do about it? And should you do anything about it at all anyway? What I find most interesting is that I'm already beginning to see different perspectives arising from different groups of people. So as you may recall, there are generally three big groups of people in the world, right? They're the traditional people, and we can look at those as maybe people that have an orientation towards God, country, following rules, following leaders, those kinds of things. And they're the foundation of most modern civilization all around the world. And the second is the modern, who are very science and achievement oriented. And those folks really see the whole AI thing and everything else in a very different way as well. They want to follow success, money, entrepreneurism, changing those kind of Star Trek world people, right? And then the third group is the postmodern. They're more concerned with the environment and humanity and human rights and the ability for people to survive and universal basic income and things like that. And so these three different groups have three different value sets, and they're all playing out through this morality play called artificial intelligence. Why do I call it a morality play? Well, because it's going to change things and it's going to affect things. And anytime you change one thing, it has this ripple effect all across civilization and society, right? So part of what we're seeing right now is that we're seeing jobs that are going to begin to go away in certain areas where new jobs are springing up someplace else. So anytime you have a new technology impacting the world, you've got winners and losers, right? I mean, very few people are still making horse and buggies anymore, right? We're just not shoeing. We don't have thousands of people out there in New York City shoeing horses. They got rid of the 50,000 horses that were in New York City back in the 19 teens, and they got rid of them. Where'd they go? They ate them. They ate the horses. Horrible, right? It's like, oh, the poor horse. But bottom line is that they ate the horses, and the blacksmith shops turned into mechanic shops for cars. And so there's always going to be winners and losers in every technological revolution and transition. The difference here today is that this is happening at an exponential rate, meaning it's not happening along a linear line. The transformation is happening so fast that there's what Alvin Toffler called future shock. The shock wave of the change is so big that some people will resist it. Some people will drop everything to get involved with it. And some people will wonder, why is this happening? And how do we help people who are going to be impacted by this, right? So when we look at that, we understand that this change is going to happen anyway. Like I have a friend, an associate, who is very against artificial intelligence and very against all the data centers and the water and the money and the resources and the mining and everything else. Very good points of view, very valid points of view. And it's still going to happen. It's going to happen because nobody's going to give up the fight to be first and the fight to become $1 trillion companies and the fight to dominate the world with their worldview through their AI. So it isn't just going to go away because a bunch of people hold up signs and protest and say we shouldn't do it. There's reasons why we shouldn't do it. In fact, some of the top AI people say, we don't know what happens when you get an AI that's got an IQ of 10,000, right? We don't know what happens when that happens. And they're worried about it and they think we should really slow the whole thing down. But if one person slows down, it's what's called a zero sum game, a winner take all. Because on the exponential curve, right, as it curves up like the hockey stick, if you are along a linear piece 1 centimeter away or 1 inch away from someone else in competition, you are just a little behind them. But on the exponential curve, you could be miles behind them, just way behind them because of that slight advantage. And that slight advantage accrues to money, finance, power, control, and everything else. So governments are working with the AIs all around, AI companies all around the world to try and get them to work together even more in the military, in the government, in universities, so they can have an advantage over each other. And this gets back to a fundamental problem. How far can competition go on a finite planet? Right? How much resources do we allocate to artificial intelligence on a finite planet? I'm not saying we can't. I'm just saying what's the consequences, right? So how does this apply for you and me and everybody else, right? So it's going to change. It's going to get rid of millions of jobs. It's going to displace millions of workers. It's going to cause a huge change in the price of everything. So, for example, your iPhone or your Android is going to get more expensive because the chips in there are going to be going to AI instead of the phone, where the price will go up. So the price point for the phones will go up, right? Some people will use the tools in their work, and so they'll make more money faster, whereas other people who don't have access to them will not be able to compete. So there's all these downstream second and third order consequences that we're not even asking, or some people are asking, but most people aren't, because they don't know they exist and they don't know what to do about it, and they're not in a position to do anything about it. And the people who can do something about it don't want to do anything about it because they just want to keep going and making the money. So we're kind of boxed into a corner with the whole thing. Well, what does that mean for you? What does it mean for me? What does it mean for anybody? Remember that target circle, the archery target circle with a concentric circle? In the center of that is you, is me. We each as individuals, anybody watching this video, you're in the center of that. That's your domain of control, is you. And as you know, the old story of the rider on top of the elephant, if the rider pulls the reins this way or that way, most of the elephant might go that way. But if the elephant decides it wants to go a different way, the rider, it doesn't matter how much you pull on the rope, the elephant's going to go the way the elephant wants to go. And that's part of life. That things still happen to us, even if we don't want them to happen, right? Think of all the victims of war and tragedy and aggression and these kinds of things. Think of the people who were, who the only job they knew how to do was to shoe horses in 1910 in New York City. And their job went away. What did they do? They had to go learn their job. So awareness is key. First, we have to become aware of it and stay aware of it, even if we just spend a little bit of time being aware of all the new things that are happening in the world, because then we're not surprised by them, right? So if you may not own the puppy next door, but you might see the little puppy running around the yard at first, and then it becomes a little bigger, then you see him training it, and then it becomes a guard dog. Well, if you never paid attention to it, you turn the corner one day and there's this 35, 40 kilo guard dog facing you down, and you never even talked to it or petted it or anything when it was a puppy, it might attack you. But if you made a relationship with it in your mind, I'm being metaphorical here, if you made a relationship with the dog when it was just a puppy and petted it and fed it and was nice with the neighbors and everything else, then you don't have the same situation. So don't be surprised by it. This means we need to have a certain percentage of our life just staying aware, not watching big opinion pieces from someone on the far left or the far right or whatever, but just educating ourselves online perhaps, or through magazines or other ways to learn what's going on and what do we need to know about it and what does it mean.
So for this story with Meta building a Manhattan-sized data center, what is it that we should be aware about?
I think the key awareness here is that the deployment, the development, deployment, the use of, and the intention of these AI companies is radical expansion. So if someone says, well, it's not going to change my life, you're like, you're going to be affected by something that's going to be trillions of dollars worth of new technology is going to impact your life. The internet impacted your life. Maybe in 1980 thought, well, this whole computer thing, it's not a big deal. There won't be very many. Even the president of IBM or CEO of IBM said there will never be a need for more than a dozen PCs. Well, that turned out to be way wrong, right? So that misperception caused them a business opportunity. In our life, the misperception around this means we don't know how to yet keep up if we haven't gotten involved with learning, with understanding, with participating, at least peripherally. And furthermore, the fact that they're going to be spending all this money and time and attention on this means they're not spending time and attention on other things, that the society's move is pushing forward here. Now, remember we talked about the three perspectives: traditional, modern, and postmodern. AI is a very modern, technology oriented, achiever oriented, dominance oriented perspective, right? That's what's going on. It's the big world fight between these titans, these giant 12 AI companies around the world. And that's going to continue no matter what you or I think or do about it. But if we stay on top of what's going on, we can understand it and we can learn about it and we can even use some of the tools effectively. So, for example, you might want to learn to research your health more. You might want to learn to research about where to move. You might want to learn to research about what new job I should take, or should I go get another degree? These large language models, LLMs, these AI tools, are very good for basic research. And you can find out a whole lot of information that you otherwise can't find out. And you can even put an AI in your phone, so you don't have to go get a big computer. What this means is we're now going to have access to a radical amount of information that's helpful and positive. But it's up to us to make sense of it. We have to make sense of the information. It can do all this research for you. It can give you all these options and all these ideas, but you have to make sense of it. So what this really means at the bottom line is that these giant mega data centers, one called Hyperion, one called Titan, with the Titan was the other one, Prometheus, and all the others they're going to build, like Elon Musk's mega factories, right? The gigafactories. These are going to continue and they're going to keep happening, even despite all the other things that are happening in society. So you're being forced down this giant stream, and you really need to learn how to swim and how to paddle, even if it means just learning, not necessarily doing.
And it sounds almost like the first step would be to talk to one of the LLMs, describe to them the career or job or whatever I'm living today, and then asking it how the push for AI will affect it, or what it thinks how it would affect it, and how I should pivot if I need new education or a career switch or things like that. Is that one thing you're suggesting?
Brilliant idea. Brilliant idea. Yeah, you can take, how is this going to affect me? Right? How is this going to affect my family? You can say, I'm this kind of person. I live here. I do this. I do that. My family does this. We do that. I'm interested in this. Here's what I believe about life. Tell me how AI is going to impact me. And also tell me how I can use it to become a better person, right? That whole idea of waking up to your life, right? Cleaning up any of the problems in your life, growing up and becoming more wise and more intelligent and more capable in a world where information and wisdom and intelligence are leading, or supposedly leading, and then stepping up to make a positive difference in the world. In other words, this is just a tool. A hammer can be used to hammer nails, or it can be used to attack someone terribly, right? The hammer manufacturer doesn't decide how it's used. The user decides how it's used. So hopefully you'll take all this information about AI and the technology and what you can do with it, and you'll use it to make your life better, however you define better: healthier, smarter, fitter, better, right? Those kinds of things. For example, let's say you have high cholesterol. Not terribly high, not like 300, 400, something like that, but just higher than you want. Your doctor says, well, we think we're going to put you on a statin. Okay, well, maybe before you get on a drug that changes your whole your body system, maybe go out and look at a large language model like ChatGPT or Grok or Gemini or one of the others and say, hey, here's my blood work. And you write down what your blood work was. And you say, here's my age, my weight, my physical activity, and be as honest as you can. I mean, it's okay. There's no judgment in these AIs. It's not like, you're confessing, but it's like, if you drink, put in there. If you smoke, put in there. And then say, I don't want to go on the statin. Please give me a protocol or a list of things I can do so that in 60 days, my cholesterol will be in the normal range where the doctor wants it to be, so I don't have to go on the drug. That would be a very good use for that, right? Or you can say, maybe I'm pre-diabetic, right? I've got metabolic syndrome. I'm pre-diabetic, and I want you to put a protocol for me together of behaviors, lifestyle, diet, nutrition, exercise, sleep. And I'm willing to do this much, but not this much. Help me understand what I can do and take charge of my own health. So you're increasing your agency, you're increasing your personal power, you're increasing your understanding of your life and yourself. And you're using the tool to help you get there, right? Because I don't know a single doctor I've met in the past 20 years that's going to spend 3 or 4 hours with you training you, right? They're just not going to do it. And nobody's got time to go research on Amazon and look for books, then buy the book and spend more money and then try and read the book and make sense of it and everything else. That's what these tools are for.
If I'm understanding you correctly, what you're saying is we can't stop the movement. We can't stop Meta from building Manhattan-sized centers. We can't stop the trillion-dollar investments into AI companies. Whether we agree with it or not, it's happening.
Right.
But what we can do is we can be aware of what's happening and we can learn to use those tools for good. Meaning for good, we can learn to use those tools to still achieve our goals in life.
Yes. Yes, we can still, even if we don't like AI, we can still use it to make the world a better place with our vision of the world, right? And here's the thing, there are so many of these kinds of issues. You have that tiny circle in the middle of the archery target, right? That's you. And then the next circle out is your friends and family. That's where you have some influence. And then the next is the circle out of people you've met and know, but you don't really interact with. And then outside of that are the other 8.2 billion people that you can't control. And life is so much like that. Doesn't matter if you like the last presidential election in the United States or not. You're not changing it. You're probably not changing the next one. You can vote and add your vote, which you should, and we all need to vote and we all need to participate at a reasonable level at least. But it doesn't mean you get to control the outcome. So much of life is things that we don't control, and allowing it. And this is really an important point. You have to learn to allow, you want to learn to allow the things you can't change, right? I don't know, there's something called the serenity prayer. A friend of mine has told me about it. It's, see if I can remember because he told me about it. It's like, grant me the wisdom to, I forget, I can't do it. It's a serenity prayer. Look it up on Google. Anyway, the point is that there are things you can't control. So you want to just surrender to the things you can't control and allow them to be while still not liking them. It's okay. You can still not like the data centers. But if you spend all your time in life just saying, I hate this, I hate this, I hate this, your life becomes all about, I hate this. And that makes no sense. You get one beautiful life. Find beauty, find goodness, find a place where you can make a difference, whether it's picking up a piece of trash or planting flowers or helping your elderly neighbor mow their lawn or whatever. Find ways to make a difference and see how your world changes, not to mention the world of the people you're helping. That's what we can control. We can control our feelings. We can control our response to our feelings. And I don't mean control like suffocate them. I mean like we can navigate them together. We can go through the process of, oh, these big data centers are happening. AI is happening. They're going to make drones. There's going to be wars. There's going to be, the economy goes up and then it crashes and it goes up and it crashes. People are at the top are making all the money. There's income inequality. There's climate change and ecological collapse happening right now. And it's like a runaway train and we're in trouble and we need to know about it. It's another thing. But it's like, the key is to stay engaged with these things, learn about them, do the part you can do, and then still live your life. And I'm going to misquote the movie. There was a movie called Catch-22 based upon the book Catch-22. The movie's wonderful. I haven't read the book, I'll be honest. But there's a part in the movie where, as I recall, and I saw it decades ago, I'll admit, and where the shopkeeper of a whorehouse says to some soldiers that come in there, look, before, this takes place in Italy, before the war, we drink a wine, we make a love, we live life, even despite all the craziness in the world. And then during the war, we drink wine, we make love, we live life. And then when you soldiers, you Americans go away and the war is over, guess what we're going to do? We're going to drink wine, we're going to make love, we're going to live life. And it's a very simplistic way of saying you still have to live your life. And you want to work on yourself harder than anything else, because the more we work on ourselves, the more we do personal growth, the more we do spiritual growth, the more we become kinder, wiser, smarter, happier, healthier, and help more people around us, the world just gets to be a better place, regardless of all the rest.
What about the concern that if we don't speak up, if we don't do something, all the $1 trillion that are going into data centers, they could have been invested into helping climate change or preventing climate change or things like that?
You're 100% right. There's trillions of dollars that are going to go into data centers and all these other things that could have been used to make the world a better place, help educate people, build better schools and hospitals and nursing homes, and discover more drugs to help keep humanity safe, or cure cancer. All these things that we could do, The difference is that people have different motivations. People out in the outer circles that you don't know and you can't move, maybe you've heard them or seen them on TV. I can't make Mark Zuckerberg take that 180 billion dollars for a data center and put it into medical research to help children with cancer. I can't make him do that. So you still have to stay engaged and do the part you can do. Sure, protest, write your senators and your congressmen, donate money to causes you believe in, charities. Go, go clean up the trash with part of a charity movement. Go help the elderly. Go do Meals on Wheels, or bring presents to kids who have cancer when they do those moves every year. Those are important things to do. Still do those things and recognize that we individually don't have the power to change everything just because we don't like it. And if we spend all of our time resisting it, we become miserable. And life is too important and too beautiful to be miserable all the time. It really is. Even in the hardest of times, we have to find joy, goodness, love, connection, community, awe, all those things.
I feel like you're introducing me to a new concept, but I just want to verify that I understand correctly. It's almost like you're proposing a happy resistance. Not even a resistance, but a speaking up to things that we may not agree with, or developments that we are fearful around. But although we're sharing that and speaking up in our lives, we're still without fear, we're still happy, and we're still full of joy.
Kind of. I'm still terrified by climate change. I mean, and other things too, right? I mean, the next pandemic that could wipe out half the planet, right? There's things to be worried about, and concerned about, and even afraid that they might come true, or they might happen in my lifetime or your lifetime or lifetime of anybody. The fact of the matter is, we can hold two things at once. The key to, I think, to happiness is being okay with paradox. I don't want this. I do want this. They're not the same. I can't make them become the same because of facts of life. And I still have to be okay with being alive and living a life. And you can still have grief and fear and anger and upset. Those are natural human emotions to things that are wrong in the world. And it's okay to have those. It's that if we live there, we become miserable. I know so many people that just live there and become miserable instead of just joyfully working hard to build what you do want in life and to become the person you do want to be and to help other people win and be healthy and happy too. You can do both. You can do both. I work on several initiatives that are against things that shouldn't be happening in the world. I donate money, I donate time, I donate expertise, and I love planting my tomatoes, and making a nice salad with those fresh, beautiful tomatoes and hanging out with friends. And it's life is beautiful, and we have to remember that and seize that, because that's what makes the fighting worth something, right? If all the fighting does is make us miserable and angry and exhausted, that would be stupid. And I don't mean fighting. I mean working towards and pressuring and doing those kinds of things. It's like if we just do those things that are hard and don't enjoy life, what's the point? What are we fighting for? Who are we fighting for if we're not having friends and family and loving people and making a difference? The most important thing to remember here is there are these big, what we call meta objects, these giant objects of life, whether it's massive data centers and AI and the transition that's going to change all of civilization, or climate change, which could cause the collapse of civilization this century, or big political movements that are against what you want. These are big things that are going to happen anyway, and they're already happening. Some form of them is going to happen. So you want to resist them, you want to fight them, but you also want to balance that out with your own personal life, growing, cleaning up, growing up, showing up for your friends and family, and then living life itself, right? As they say, drink wine, make love, have a good life, do good things, be of service to other people. These are all important things. And also remembering that there's going to be three major worldviews, right? The traditional, right? The modern, and the postmodern. And they all want three different things. And they're all going to be fighting with each other to have control of the steering wheel, right? And the fact of the matter is we have to live with that paradox and that complexity and keep learning, keep growing, keep trying to understand, at the same time that get closer to who you want to be. Get closer to your friends and family. Do more of the beautiful things in life that you can do. If it's within your reach to pick up a piece of trash and put it in the garbage, do that. If it's within your reach to pick up the phone and call your grandmother, do that. To write someone a note and tell them you love them, whatever it is. To go work out at the gym, to improve your diet, your health, your exercise. All these kinds of things you can do. We have so much power, and we get lost in the sauce. We get lost in the noise and forget the signal of you are alive. This is your life. Have fun. get smarter, do better, and enjoy.